What's up? Today I am in the studio and we are talking about the tech behind Envelope Money. Now, I'm a programmer. Earlier this year, I left Robinhood to co-found Envelope Money with Katie, and I am pretty much the one making all the technical decisions behind this business. So I want to run through each layer in our tech stack and talk about the thing that's most awesome about it and the thing I absolutely hate. We're going to start all the way from the back end and we're going to go all the way to the iPhone app. Honestly, we haven't really made this kind of programming tech content in a while. We used to actually make a lot of like programming career related videos. People would ask us tons of questions about coding, and we even made a couple of videos on the subject, but it actually caused some problems because the people that were finding our videos, that's like all they wanted to see was programming content. And let me be clear, this is not a programming channel. This is a tech and entrepreneurship channel documenting Katie and I's life and careers. And I'll be honest with you, I actually hate making this type of content. It's like, it's really easy to make, gets a ton of views, but the problem is it attracts these subscribers that like all they want to see is programming content. To the point where Katie and I, like last year when we built our house, they started commenting things like, why would you spend time doing manual labor when you could do much more fruitful things like coding? Basically, people just like putting down our entrepreneurship because they think coding is like above any other type of business you could start. Like, let me be clear, there's gonna be videos Katie and I post of like buying a vending machine business and like I have to go repair a vending machine now. And I'm dead serious. If you're the kind of person that's not gonna support us when we do that and you're gonna comment things like more programming tutorials, why spend your resources doing something not manual labor, honestly, just unsubscribe. If you can't support us at those rock bottom moments repairing a vending machine, you don't deserve to watch me rant about TypeScript, which is pretty much this whole video. Let's go. All right, starting off our infrastructure. This is like the bottom layer of any tech company. We use Amazon Web Services, AWS. There's a bunch of competitors. Google's got some, like Heroku's awesome. What do I love about AWS? First off, it is free. Google AWS Activate, they have tons of free credits for startup founders. It's like amazing. You can easily get like $10,000 worth of AWS credits. They don't expire for like a year or two. It's just such an easy ecosystem to dive in and like start experimenting and testing stuff out. The last thing you want to worry about when you're starting your business is like your server costs. The thing I don't love about AWS, it's like a full-time job, honestly, to figure out how everything works together. If money was no object, I would go with Heroku or something like,
shut up and take my money.
It's just so much easier to get up and running. They handle scaling and load balancing stuff for you. AWS is just the complete opposite. They don't teach you anything. Here's every single option any company would need in the entire world. Go learn how to put them all together. It's kind of gross, but I enjoy learning it too, so that's what we've picked. One step up above our infrastructure, we use Docker. Docker is awesome. It like wraps your entire back end in a container. I had heard about Docker a ton before this company, but Envelope Money is the first time I've really dove in and like tried to figure it out. It's amazing. It's just so cool. I don't have to like manually install a database on my computer anymore. Now for my favorite and least favorite thing. My favorite thing, Docker has this super cool thing called Docker Compose Cli, and it basically like automatically deploys your Docker application to AWS for you. And it does all this crazy stuff behind the scenes. You can create like an auto scaling cluster with like one line of a Docker argument and it'll like deploy and hot reload your server for you. In the past, I've done startups and like I SSH in and I do a git pull and like redeploy the server. It is like so much better than that. And it's kind of crazy. Docker has this whole thing, makes it so easy to deploy your backend. And honestly, this one was actually kind of hard for me to think of something I don't like about Docker. You'll see further down in the list, like there's some I do not like, but Docker, it is hard to think of something annoying. If I could give it any criticism, I would say it kind of breaks your hot reloading, which is this cool thing where like your local server, anytime you hit save on your keyboard, it can just like stop and restart for you. It like kind of breaks that cool workflow, and there's hacky ways to get it to work, but honestly, it's a pretty small nitpick. Docker's amazing. I would use it for any project. Moving on from Docker, we have our database. What do we use at Envelope Money? We use MySQL. There was this article I read a while back about like pick boring technology analogy and it really resonated with me. I think your database should literally be the most boring thing in the entire world. You should not be experimenting with new crazy tech on your database. No one cares. Don't waste your time. Just pick MySQL or Postgres and just be done with it and move on. Next up, what is our server written in? It is Node.js. I have a very turbulent relationship with Node.js. When I first heard about it, I was like this freshman intern at Microsoft and computer science student looking it up. Wow, Node.js is so cool. It's fast and it's new and their logo's sweet and I don't want to use like a nasty jetty something. Everything else just seemed like gross and old compared to Node.js. It was awesome. So I started using it. It's got like hot reloading. Your code doesn't have to compile. You just save and your server like restarts in 1 second. It had JSON that goes along with it. And I remember like the Microsoft employees on my team when I was an intern, like I was trying to explain to them what JSON was for the first time because they used XML. Node just felt like this really cool, young, hip, like way to do things. It just felt like the future. I've used it for several projects now, and honestly, the more I use Node, the more I just hate it. If you ask me right now, Node.js sucks. What happened, Josh? You might ask. You loved Node, like you were a little freshman, you loved it so much, now you hate it. What happened? The problem with Node is the moment you want to like take a project more seriously, you have to add all this garbage on top of Node. So let's take envelope money, for example. This is a financial application. We're handling transaction data, so it's a good idea to not have floating points just rolling around our backend. Well, sucks to suck, Josh. Node does not have an integer type. When you think about it, it's like so dumb. Like there's no integer. Any number at any point in my application's life cycle could just turn into a floating point and add like a 0.0001 to it. So then you go and you're like, all right, that sucks. Well, let's add some safety and things. You slap TypeScript on it. TypeScript's really hot right now. Oh, we can type things and have all this safety and we don't have to worry about like our financial application crashing as much. So you add TypeScript, you configure it, you have all this cool test stuff you're setting up, and you realize, dude, I'm literally back to a compiled language. The whole problem I was trying to avoid in the past of like, I don't want to sit for 10 seconds while my backend compiles, you're right back there. It's like by adding TypeScript, you fix all this broken garbage, and at the same time, you're just succumbing to like the thing you hated starting out. On top of that, I just personally think that the NPM like package ecosystem is just honestly really gross. In my opinion, like the language community and designers should be picking like the standard library that helps you accomplish like 90% of what anyone's trying to do. I get that there's going to be like a 10% that you have to delve off and get some open source package to do. Let me just share one example here because I think it's so dumb. Node has like really bad built-in HTTP like web request stuff. There's this old library called requests. Everyone still uses it, but it's deprecated for very good reasons. You shouldn't use it, but everyone still does. And then if you think, oh, well, I actually shouldn't use that. There's reasons it's deprecated. Let's move on to the next thing. You think, oh, fetch is really cool. JavaScript has fetch. I like that API. Then you realize, dang it. Node doesn't have fetch. That sucks. Why can't it have fetch? Okay. I just want to make a network request. I got to go into NPM now. Let's look up fetch. There's two options that do exactly the same thing. Let me check my notes. One is called cross fetch. One is called node fetch. The goal of both of them is to bring fetch into Node. Like really cool. Why on earth do you have two external open source packages that do exactly the same? Like, do they not know about each other? Can they not join up and like help each other out, bring fetch to Node in a nice way? I just think this is a perfect example of like the horribly fragmented community around Node, the disgusting package system and ecosystem that happens. It's just a mess. And honestly, any like cool benefits and speed ups you would think of adopting Node early on in your project, it just gets wiped out by like having to sort through and dive into docs to understand why these two fetch libraries are any different and who is even maintaining these anyway. Like all the network requests of my backend servers like maintained by these people online. Like, are they gonna be around in 3 years? Who knows? Honestly, I feel like JavaScript just needs this huge like Python 3 backwards incompatible like move forward. I don't care, just break the old garbage that you guys have, add an actual integer to the language. Like, it has so many problems. I think this is definitely the last project I would use Node in. There's lists online of all the stuff you could fix with it, but I personally wish we wrote our backend in Kotlin. And I could see us one day migrating over to Kotlin or something else that's like typed in a sensible modern language, Go or something. Honestly, anything besides Node. And before people in the comments jump in with Django and Python, I don't think that fixes any of the problems I just explained with Node. It's still this language that like acts like it's fast and, you know, doesn't have compile times, but after you slap all the necessary stuff on it, you're right back to where you started. Okay, sorry for the rant there. Let's move on. For our network layer, we use GraphQL. Actually really cool. I had never used it before this project. The thing I like most about it is it's like adds types to your API. So you don't like request a name from someone and like, hey, what's your first name? And you get a response back like their phone number. It's like really cool how it has built in like safety and a schema that comes along with GraphQL. That's the main thing we use it for. We don't really use any of the like selectively choosing fields you want to query and stuff. At Twitter, we started moving over to GraphQL for that reason. And I think it's actually really cool for big companies. For something small like envelope money though, the schema on your API is like more than enough reason to use GraphQL. The thing I don't like about GraphQL, I don't know. It's pretty awesome. Maybe some of you kind of lose all the cool HTTP status codes. I think that's definitely a flaw in GraphQL. It's like got 5 instead of like the dozens or so that come with HTTP. That's maybe my one criticism about it, but it's pretty cool. Let's move on. Most people are surprised by this, but any like serious iPhone or Android app has a backend inside of it. That's the place where all the business logic goes, the caching happens. A lot of front-end apps actually have their own database like we do in Envelope Money. And for all that stuff, we use what's called Kotlin Multi-Platform. It's pretty cool. It's like you can write all your business logic and caching logic in Kotlin, and it will actually compile down. Maybe compile is not the right word, like transcodes. It like ports over to Objective-C and Swift so you can use it natively inside of your iOS app. And the great part about this is that Android and iOS can both share the same exact business logic code. They can share the same caching layer. You just write it once and you can use it across all your front-end platforms. Super cool. My favorite part is definitely just being able to write code once. My least favorite part, honestly, I wish it didn't support Objective-C because all the Kotlin code gets like morphed into this nasty looking Objective-C stuff, and then from there gets bridged to Swift. In my opinion, Swift is definitely the future of iOS development, and I feel like they added a lot of just gross complexity to Kotlin Multi-Platform by even supporting Objective-C. I get why they did it. It like guarantees you can use it for any app ever, but it does make for some like kind of gross interoperability with Swift because you're really going from like Kotlin to Objective-C to Swift. It just adds this middle layer, makes stuff kind of gross sometimes. All right, finally, last of all, we've gone from bottom all the way up to the top of our tech stack. Let's talk about our UI. Our iOS app is built with 100% Swift UI. What do I love about it? It's so fast to build UI. It's like super intuitive. I mean, it has a little learning curve, but once you get past that, it is like really cool to build UI with Swift UI. Honestly, my favorite thing about it is it makes animations so easy, so clean. There's a ton of really cool stuff we do inside the Envelope Money app that was like very, very easy to do with Swift UI. What do I not like about Swift UI? Oh man, there's a lot. There's a lot I don't like about it. I will use it for all projects going forward. I think it has a lot of benefits over UIKit. I think I wish it wasn't this mysterious black box wrapper around UIKit. All of the UI elements in Swift UI are like backed by UIKit elements. There's ways you can go in the app and like poke around and see what's backing up certain things. I don't think that's a problem in and of itself. It's just that Swift UI does not like giving you any control over those underlying elements. So I'll share an example from the app and I'll put a little video here so you can see what's happening. We have this really cool swiper. You can go between the different pages in our app. And when you click on an envelope, you want to stop that swiping back and forth, but you actually can't. There's no way in Swift UI to disable this swiping back and forth. It's backed up by what's called a tab view in the background. And tab views, you can normally go in and like tell them they shouldn't be able to swipe left and right anymore. But with this one, you can't. You just can't do it. There's no way. So you have to end up doing all this super hacky stuff to like inject it in the middle of a transition and remove it so that the user can't interact with it anymore. Honestly, I have a list of like 50 things I hate about Swift UI that are all very similar to this, but I would say the core of it is they all stem from the fact that it's just a wrapper around existing UIKit elements. I wish they had done just everything from scratch, start from zero, make everything really customizable. It makes it really easy to build like starter tutorial type apps with Swift UI, but for something complex like envelope money, all the cool custom interactions we're doing in animations, Swift UI gets in the way a lot of the time. But having said that, I think the pros outweigh the cons. I'm gonna use Swift UI forever. I think it's awesome, and I think Apple will keep improving it in the future. There it is. That's the list. Things I like and don't like about our tech stack. I'm a big fan of choosing really boring technology, and I know it doesn't sound like it from what I just read to you. Like pretty much every tech I listed there is new, something that's come up in the last couple years. So how did we arrive at this tech stack? The underlying thought process is that me and the one other dude that are working on this, we should be able to leverage tech to help us build like an incredible amount of stuff. And everything we've picked here, from like the auto deployment, scaling, Docker, cluster kind of stuff, all the way down to the Kotlin Multi-Platform shared library, all of it, the goal of every single thing we choose is to help us build more quicker in a more sustainable, maintainable way. And I'm pretty happy with what we've ended up here. But at the end of the day, it's all just a tool to get envelope money out into the world. And I'm happy to give you a glimpse behind the curtain today. We'll see you later.